Hello, everybody. Welcome to Big Apple Hockey. The one and only LRock coming at you guys here. Named it Clapping Bombs or LRock. Let's try to think of a name, to go with. We'll see if that will change. But I know Phil has is good, the bad, and ugly after Ranger Islander games. So I figured I'd go live for you guys and just vent a little bit about my disgust about the New York Islanders, and also talk the Rangers. So we'll see. We'll see how many people come and join us here. If it's don't get many people. I'll only probably be on for a couple minutes, but um, as right now, you know, it's one of those things where the Islanders right now are just kind of disgusting me. Let's be real here. I'll start there. Last night they dropped a 2-1 game to San Jose, um, and it wasn't pretty. They were once again offensively challenged, and if it weren't for Ilya Sorokin in goal, the game probably would have been 4-1. So you can, I guess, take a positive that they at least got 1 point here, but at the end of the day, they needed 2 points, and they didn't. It's funny because I'll get into some of the reasons, but why they're struggling. But one of them is scoring. They're not putting the puck in the net, and you can't win hockey games when you're only scoring one goal. I said on Twitter earlier, Ilya Sorokin is getting the Jacob DeGrom treatment that the DeGrom gets from the Mets with no run support. Man can only do so much, but you know, previous years, let's say if Barzal's line wasn't going, Bailey, Nelson, Beuvillier, Pajot, they were all scoring. And that kind of made up for the fact that, let's say, maybe Barzal's line, was in a funk for a couple of games, or it was Nelson's line in a funk for a couple of games. This year, they are all just in a funk. There's no primary scoring. There's no secondary scoring. I mean, you're talking JG Pajot. He had 14 goals in 54 games last season, and this year he's got 1 goal. This is a guy that last year was on pace to have over 20 goals after scoring 27 the year before. Anthony Beuvillier had 15 goals last year in 54 games or so, and he was on pace to have a career year as well. And this year he's not scoring either. So this is the point here that I'm getting across. They're not getting scoring when other lines are in a jam. Zach Parise was brought in to score 10 to 15 goals, and he's got 0. I mean, granted, the guy's got a motor. He can still skate, and he's tenacious on the puck, but that'll only bring you so far. At some point, you have to start looking past the good things he does and can't make excuses anymore that he's not scoring goals. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining me. Talk some Rangers too. So if you guys feel free to ask questions about the Rangers, but this was spur of the moment, so I don't know how many people are going to join here, but I figured I'd give it a go. But so yeah, back to the Islanders in terms of the big issues. They're not scoring goals. Second issue, team defense. This is a team that Barry Trotz's first year here on the island, they won the Jennings Trophy, which you guys know it's the least amount of goals allowed. And Leonard and Grace shared that trophy. This year, for a Trotz team that's been so good defensively, they're just bleeding chances, and I think it points to the fact that he had to break up Adam Pelech and Ryan Pullock. That pair is one of the best shutdown pairs in the National Hockey League, and this year he had to break them up because Nick Leddy's departure forced his hand, because with the way the other pairs shook loose, he couldn't just keep Pelech and Pullock together and let the other pairs flounder. So, after, three consecutive years of them playing together, now, Pelech's playing with Mayfield, Pullock is playing with Andy Green. It gets just guys disjointed, and overall their defense hasn't looked the same as it has the last couple of years. And that's concerning, because we all know Barry Trotz isn't known for his offensive system. He's a defensive stalwart, and right now the Islanders are the furthest thing from that. And the only thing that's masking some of these deficiencies is Ilya Sorokin in goal. I mean, the guy, can't really say enough about him. The guy's been outstanding. He's got a 929 save percentage on a team that's 5-10-3. You think about what kind of numbers would this guy have if he was, let's say, playing on, the Hurricanes or the Panthers or a top team. I mean, you can make a case, who knows, maybe he's leading the league in every statistical category. He's that good. And, Ranger fans, you guys can relate. You have Igor Shesterkin, who's fantastic. And the Islanders, have Sorokin, and we all referenced before how close friends they are. They're always going to be tied together for pretty much the whole careers. But, he deserves better. Ilya is the only reason why this team, truthfully, probably, is not winless. I mean, he's had every single point they've gotten so far. And it's clear that he should be the guy going forward. Semyon Varlarmov, by comparison, he's got an .881 save percentage. I mean, that's bad. Granted, I know he's only played 4 games, but, you talk about how the Islanders are a bad team right now. So you would think, okay, well, then maybe Sorokin's numbers are bad, but no, it's the complete opposite. So that just goes to show he's the guy right now. And yeah, Chris, he was the difference maker. And the 1-0 shutout the prior night against Pittsburgh, he almost stole that game for him. Unfortunately, the Islanders offense couldn't even give the guy a goal. But last night was the same case. He's the only reason why he even got to overtime. And then on the overtime, they lost on just a boneheaded play by Beuvillier. In overtime, it's all about possession. Puck possession is huge in overtime. Beuvillier gets the puck at the point, and he just throws a low percentage shot on net, essentially just giving up the puck. And the Sharks go the other way. Carlson makes a sweet sauce pass to Meyer. Sorokin kind of makes a save / Meyer loses it. And then Adam Pelech just kind of, someone who's really, really good, he kind of just flew by the net instead of stopping and staying with Carlson, and Carlson just had a tap in. But yeah, that game, I do think their effort was a lot better last night, but their inept offense right now is just killing them. I mean, the one guy that was going was Brock Nelson, and as you guys know, he's out 2 to 4 weeks. He was the only offensive player with a pulse pretty much this whole year. But, listen, it's not good. I'm a diehard Islander fan, but as you guys know, I call it right down the middle. I try not to have a bias, even with the Rangers. I call it like I see it. So with the Islanders, it's certainly not good. They're 12 points behind Pittsburgh for the last wild card spot. So it's going to be a real tough battle for them to get back in the thick of things here. But I will say this: if I'm not ready to throw in the towel, because let's just hypothetically say, the Islanders rattle off 5 wins in a row. That's 10 points. So obviously Pittsburgh during that 5 games could probably pick up points too. But the point is, if they can at least get on a 5-game winning streak, that deficit of maybe 12 points out goes to, maybe 6 or 5. And with, 60 games left, that's a much more manageable number to work with. But that's the only way I could see them getting back in it. But it has to happen soon. They can't keep losing like this, or win a game and then, let's say, drop 3 out of the next 4. If they are going to go on this type of run, it has to happen yesterday. But the sooner the better. But as far as the Rangers go, I think one of the harder things for the Islander fans right now is to swallow. If the Rangers sucked too, I think that would be an easier pill to swallow. But that's the opposite. And the Rangers are a really good team. If you're an Islander fan and you try to deny that, you're smoking something. The Rangers have a good squad. I know you guys, have been waiting a decent amount of time for it. The Rangers have been, bad for the last 4 years or so, but you have a good team now, set up for long-term success. And I'm actually surprised that the Rangers are playing the way they did. I think for all of you that watched our main show, we all kind of were pretty much in agreement that the Rangers were going to be on the cusp of making the playoffs and competing. And this year they're just kind of exceeding expectations. I would say at this point, it would take a decently sized collapse for the Rangers to miss out on the playoffs. But they got an Oral World defenseman, Adam Fox, no question about it. Probably be in the running for the Norris Trophy again this year. Which, by the way, there was a tweet from the NHL of some of the writers, the kind of early picks for Norris, and Roman Josi was actually leading the charge with the most votes. He was number one. Aaron Ekblad was number two, and then Adam Fox was number three. But I digress. He's going to be in the running for the Norris again. Igor Shesterkin, as mentioned earlier, he's when you weed out the goalies who've only played 4 or 5 games, like in save percentage, statistical categories, it goes Campbell, Markstrom, and Shesterkin would be third, and Sorokin would be sixth for all you guys keeping score. But Shesterkin's been great. He's aside from the 2 Calgary losses, he's given the team a chance to win every single game, and then that's all you can really ask for your goalie. But he goes above and beyond that, especially early in the year. Early in the year when the Rangers weren't playing as well, he was stealing hockey games. The game against Montreal, that wild game against Toronto in overtime. But he's really great. Yeah, I don't know about that, Mike. My Islander love runs deep, but I never mind talking about the Rangers. I could talk hockey to anybody. I mean, hell, if you really want me to, I could sit there and talk to you about the Arizona Coyotes. I just love talking hockey. But the Rangers, aside from those two, obviously world class Artemi Panarin. Slower start for him. The points were there, but he wasn't playing Panarin-esque. Now he's back to, I think, the bread man that you guys all love and cherish on your team. Zibanejad, and then from there you're getting contributions from like Chris Kreider, who's we mentioned. He has his stretches where he disappears, but Kreider has been really good this year. I mean, you could make the case that aside from Shesterkin and I guess Fox, he's probably been your best player. He's scoring, and he's not disappearing or uncharacteristic lazy plays from him. He's been solid all around. So the Rangers, I think, have just as much as chance to win the division right now, in my opinion. Carolina, I believe, is 1-4-1 in their last 6, so they're slipping a little bit. Washington, I think they're going to be there all year. I mean, Ovechkin's just a man on a mission right now. It looks like he's trying to will that team to another cup run and also break Wayne Gretzky's record. I mean, he's just been unbelievable. So I think the Capitals are going to be there all year, and the Hurricanes will too. They're just struggling right now, but I think one of those 3 teams are going to win the division, barring an unforeseen charge by the Penguins, who, like I said, hold that last wild card spot or something else. But you got to like the Rangers' chances. And the one thing I would say about them that I think they could add, a little bit more scoring, and I think that they will look to add that come the deadline time. And I know our last show we talked about Phil Kessel's possible option. Vancouver might be doing some interesting things. Maybe JT Miller, but you guys been there, done that before. Brock Besser is an interesting kind of, I don't want to call it under the radar, because I think with a team like Vancouver that is struggling as much as they are, they really might blow it up. So maybe he does become available. But I think Brock Besser would be a great fit for the Rangers. Pure shooter. But again, I don't know for sure if Vancouver is going to move him. They probably look to move Miller first, just because his contract's expiring. But the Rangers can use that another goal scorer. Lafreniere has been a lot better in his play overall. His 6 points or so in 20 games, generally speaking. I think all you Rangers fans would agree that you want more out of him. But if he could start producing more, I mean, that would be a great win for you guys. Kakko has been really good, I would say, for the last week or so. So, him kind of becoming the player that you guys all thought he would be really good for you. But after that, I think is where they really need someone else, because Julien Gauthier, he's played well the last couple of games, but I don't know if he's there yet in terms of relying him to provide us, tertiary scoring, or even primary scoring, secondary scoring to your primary scoring, I should say. So they can use that another winger that can put the puck in the net. But this team is going to be there all year. As much as it pains me to say it, they are. And if they do end up getting in the playoffs, it's really hard to say, because that first year after Trotz took over, when the Islanders kind of were good after everyone wrote them off after Tavares left. No one gave them a chance against Pittsburgh. They obviously swept them. So you don't know. Once they do get in the playoffs, they're a young team. The Rangers aren't really expected to make a whole lot of noise this year. But if they get in, I could see them winning a round or so. The great thing about our game is anything can happen. But Sean, regarding Parise, I think I'll address that in a second. Going back a couple of years ago, there was at the trade deadline when they traded for JG Pajot, about like an hour after, it was reported that the Islanders were working on a deal for Parise that was going to send Ladd to the Wild. In retrospect, I'm glad that didn't happen, because they would still be on the hook for his most recent contract that the Wild bought out this summer, and that would have been brutal. But so it's clear that Lou wanted him from his days in Jersey. So this year, when he was bought out, Lou finally got to bring Parise in. And everyone knew he was signing with the Islanders the minute that happened. But back to the question, Parise, I think everyone expected him to at least score 10 to 15 goals. He had a uncharacteristic year with shooting percentage. It was one of the lowest in his career, and the worst statistical career that he's had last year when he was in Minnesota. But so everyone thought he was going to rebound. And I do like his game. I do. Like I said at the top of this when I came on, he skates well still, and he hounds the puck on the forecheck. He causes turnovers, and he's getting chances, but they're just not going in for him right now. And that's really tough for the Islanders, because they need all the scoring they can get, and he's not providing any of that scoring. So I do like him as a player still, but at some point you either have to, I don't know, sit him for a night, so let him watch for the press box. I don't know if Trotz will do that to a veteran like him, but something needs to happen. I know he's already been moved up and down the lineup, so I don't know much more else they could do. But yeah, he snake bit hard. And as far as Chara goes, Chara, that was all nostalgia. I think when the Islanders signed him, the feel-good story, he's essentially ending his career where he started, righting Milbury's wrong from 20 years ago. But everyone knew that he didn't have much left watching him from last year. And then watching him this year, I think it just kind of proved that everyone was right there. He just looks, granted, after the first 5 games, he got a little better, because those first 5 games he looked like a corpse. But he still lacks foot speed. He still has his reach, and he's still effective on the penalty kill. But he's not someone that the Islanders can rely on for the rest of the year. And yeah, this is true. And I think that at the end of this year, based on how everything goes, I can't see him playing again at this point. I think he probably even knows in his head that this is probably the last ride for him, but it's not going to happen in season. The thing with Chara is, though, guys, is look, if he's let's say your number 6 defenseman or your number 7 defenseman, where you give him a break and you rotate him in, it's not a problem. The problem is with the Islanders is magnified, is that Chara and Green are, essentially 2 of your they play in your top 6 every single night, and that can happen. They're both too old, and they're both too slow for this day and age. They need guys that can move the puck. And the one positive thing when the Islanders got hit with COVID is, Sebastian Aho played more, Robin Salo, and, those guys can skate and they can move the puck. The difference is they're young, they're very green, And when it comes to experience, they lack. So it's like you win in one regard, but you lose in the other. So, but it's something that, losing Nick Leddy, I think hurt them a lot more than, Islander fans would have thought, because Nick Leddy had his warts, but, you're talking, he's easily top 5 best skating defenseman. The way he skates and is elusive and can skate the puck out of the zone, get your team out of trouble, is key. And you got rid of Leddy, and it's good on Lou Lamoriello, freed up cap space and stuff. But then you brought in Zdeno Chara as his replacement. I mean, that's just not acceptable. So I don't know if it was a matter of he couldn't the player he wanted via a trade, the price was too high, or whatnot. It couldn't get it done, but it seemed like Chara was a fallback option. I would at least hope, because if that was their main play, then that's something totally wrong, because that shouldn't be. But yes, yeah, Nick Leddy, his skating's beautiful. I mean, off the top of my head, I could really just think of Miro Heiskanen and Cale Makar as guys who skate better than Nick Leddy. Nick Leddy is a phenomenal skater. Not the best in his own zone anymore, but he can really move. And we'll see our old friend Nick Leddy tomorrow in Detroit, and our old friend Thomas Greiss, which, Detroit's in the first wild card spot. They're being powered by Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider, Nedeljkovic in goal. They're surprising. So it's going to be a tough game for the Islanders. But yeah, listen, guys, I don't know what the Islanders could do at this point, because it would be stupid for Lou to move a first in this current situation, because you would hate to move a first round pick for a player to help, and at the end of the day, they still fail, or it's a top 10 pick. Then that would really hurt. So at this point, I think he has to just sit on his hands here, hope that, like I said, they can get on a little bit of streak here, win 4 or 5 in a row, and go from there. Because remember, guys, this Islander team went to the conference finals 2 years in a row. You just don't become a bad team all of a sudden just because you lost, Leddy and Eberle. They still have the main pieces that made him successful. So there's a lot that goes into it. As far as UBS Arena, Davey, I love it. Beautifully done. They really left no expense. Everything's top of the line. The finishes, the thankfully, like unlike the Coliseum, a lot of bathrooms this time around. The bars, they got Shaq's Chicken in there. If you guys go, I didn't have it when I went, but I'm a season ticket holder, so when I do go, I'm going to try it out. But Blue Line Bagels, it's a deli out somewhere in Nassau. They have like a bagel that's blue and orange, and then Shaquille O'Neal has his chicken, and then there's, I think, cream cheese. So it's the bagel, the cream cheese, and Shaq's Chicken. I heard really good things about it. I have to try it out. But no, it's a beautiful building. Sight lines are great. They tried to make it feel like the Coliseum with the low ceiling. My really only critique is the parking. It's not going to have that same feel as the Coliseum, where you're tailgating, especially in the playoffs. 7:00 game, guys are there at noon, and players at the hotel are complaining about how noisy the Islander fans were. That atmosphere is gone. It's not going to be like that. But listen, beggars can't be choosers. You have a brand new $1 billion arena. That's something I'll sacrifice. But I love it. Yeah, Tenorti and Nemeth. I think the only two defensemen that Tenorti and Nemeth are better in this league right now is Chara and Green. But no, I'll politely pass on the two of them. They're not very good, especially Nemeth. Nemeth is brutal, and that contract that Drury gave him is pretty suspect. But listen, you guys have Fox and Lindgren, and Miller's playing a little better after looking lost for the better half of the end of last year, and so far this year he's improved. But listen, when you have a guy like Adam Fox, the rest of your defense, you can get away with it just being kind of, I mean, Trouba, for what he's paid, I'm sure you guys as Ranger fans would agree that, for $8 million, you would want him to provide a lot more offense, because he did it in Winnipeg. he had a really good year offensively in Winnipeg, and you would expect him to be also better defensively. I watch a decent amount of Rangers. I will say early in the year I thought Trouba was an absolute tire fire. I thought he's been better as the season's gone on here, but for $8 million, man, I mean, you gotta be better than that. You just absolutely do. And it's going to be one of those things. Fox's extension is going to kick in. Then eventually you're going to have to re-sign Lafreniere and Kakko. You would hope maybe at one point the Rangers can move Trouba's contract to give him some play elsewhere in the cap to add to the roster. Well, no tailgating. I think in the main parking area, like right in front of Belmont. I think it'll be a little harder to do, but there's the south parking lot that's kind of like in the back, where when I went to the first game, I parked there, and I saw some people tailgating. So you can. It's just not going to be as prevalent as it was at the Coliseum, which is a shame, because I mean, Coliseum, tailgating, honking the horn after the game, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I was at Game 6 against Tampa Bay when Beuvillier won the game in overtime to send it to Game 7, and walking in the parking lot, I mean, people are just standing in the pickups of their cars, drinking, and like it was. I mean, that was so much fun. I just don't see if that's going to happen. The current setup at Belmont. Yeah. I think at this point, I would say the earliest, maybe in another 2 years they could look to move Trouba, but I think you're stuck with him for the time being. Yeah, I think a lot of people would, but hold on. I'll be right back, gentlemen. This is the joy of having a 5-year-old doing this stuff is can be challenging at times, but I'll be right back. All right. Yeah, it's like I said, it's love her more than anything, but it's a second job, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Yeah, Trouba, this is the thing, David. Out of the two guys on their team, I would say these two guys are the most likely to move in the next couple of years, just based on the contracts they got. Because right now Kreider's proving that the contract's not so bad, but last year people looked at his contract like, oh, what are we going to do with Kreider? It's going to be hard to move him. It still might be the case, but this year he's playing fantastic. But yeah, eventually you would think he's a guy that would be a candidate to be moved just because how many years are left and his cap hit. But as of right now, he's playing really well for you guys. So, listen, the Rangers, that's something that they'll have to worry about down the line. But right now, the way their team's constructed is working for them, and it's good. So, all right, just take the remote and hit play. It's hold on. I'm glad you can relate there. She's like I said, she's 5. She's she's for the most part she's actually very self-sufficient, but there are a couple of things like she just wanted me to pause her show because she had to go to the bathroom and she couldn't quite figure out how to pause it on the remote. But yeah, it's great. Schneider and Jones, I see a lot of Ranger fans talk about the two of them. I'm a little more higher on Jones than I am on Schneider, but two guys that I don't think the Rangers really need to rush to recall right now. just because they're winning. They're developing in Hartford, and there's barring injuries to their their starting six. I think they should just let him get some more time in Hartford, and then come playoff time, you can call them up as part of like the Black Aces, and see what they got. But right now, I think they're better off in Hartford. Yeah, almost. She actually had her first report card today, which I'm like, can't believe I have a 5-year-old and she already has report cards. I was like, where does this time go? Yeah, I mean, I think that's obviously correct. My only thing with Lafreniere, and I think he's gonna be a really good player in this league. I don't know if he's gonna get to be like an 80-point player, which is fine. But I know a lot of people have high expectations for players drafted first overall. You want them to come in and score 90 points and win Art Ross trophies. But that's not how it always works. So like for instance, the Islanders drafted Tavares, obviously. He had a year where he lost the Art Ross trophy on the last night of the season to Jamie Benn because he got a fucking assist on an empty net goal, which really grinded my gears. But for the most part, Tavares, was at 80. I think that his career high was 86 points with the Islanders that year. But being a 70-point player, there's nothing wrong with that. So if Lafreniere becomes a guy that scores 70 points consistently, I mean, I think as a Ranger fan, you have to take that and run. So that's more so the production. I see from him. Who knows? Maybe he could score more, but I think right now, I think he'll hover around that 70-point mark, which again is you take that every day. And even if he became let's say a 30-30 guy scores 30 goals, 30 assists for 60 points. I mean, even that, you take that. Yeah, sure. It's not a Artemi Panarin type of production, but 30 goals, 60 points is you run with that. And yes, David, not everyone's McDavid. I mean, McDavid's on another atmosphere. I mean, that guy's he's just insane. And Leon, don't forget Leon Draisaitl. Leon Draisaitl is amazing too. I mean, he's got a 1-point lead on McDavid, I think, for the scoring lead right now, 41-40. But Draisaitl's amazing. And to think that Edmonton has both these guys is just it's almost like it's like shades of Lemieux and Jágr back in the day, because I mean they're both that good, and I think they're probably the best duo since Lemieux and Jágr for my money, because both 100+ point players. I mean it's unbelievable. I personally think Fox will be their next captain. I was surprised that this was the year they didn't name a captain after all that smoke from Gallant that maybe there was going to be. But I definitely think Fox will be the captain. I'd be shocked if by the time next season starts, he's not the captain already. Kreider, which I've talked about on our show with Philip and Mark, I know he hasn't done it this year, but he just disappears for too many stretches for my liking, and sometimes it seems like the effort's not there. And for a captain, I don't think that's a characteristic you should have. So I'd go Fox over Kreider for captain any day of the week. But Rangers, they're playing tonight, right? San Jose, 7 o'clock. So a couple of minutes. Talk about that game for here for next couple of minutes. I saw San Jose last night. They're a good team. I mean, they're a lot better than people expected. That's for sure. I thought they were going to be one of the worst teams in the West. But you guys have to watch out for Timo Meier. Timo Meier is their best player right now. Logan Couture is still a pretty good player. Jonathan Dahlen, their rookie, he's playing really well. So they got some pieces that can still hurt you. Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson aren't the same Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson from 3-4 years ago, but they could both still move the puck. and chip in offensively. So Rangers have to be careful of them. They're going to jump up in the play and be active all night. So the Rangers are going to have to be aware of that. And the Islanders got Adin Hill last night. So you guys are going to get the better of the two goalies. You're going to get James Reimer tonight. Reimer, for my money, and actually, Chris, this was something I noticed last night that Joe Micheletti actually pointed out, which Joe Micheletti doing an Islander game brought me to like flashbacks of the Yashin Pekka days, like in 2002 and 2003. Actually, kind of liked it. I don't know how you guys feel about him because you hear him every night, but I thought Micheletti was pretty good. But what I was saying about James Reimer, I thought was kind of trash. I mean, when San Jose this offseason, when they made their moves and their goalie duo was going to be Reimer and Adin Hill, I ranked that up there with Arizona's tandem and Buffalo's tandem as, the worst in the league. But, James Reimer is making me eat some crow because I think right now he's in the, he's fourth in save percentage or fifth in the league. So, Reimer's playing well. So I'll tip my hat to him. But, I thought that, he was going to be garbage this year, and he's absolutely not. So, so the Rangers get the better of the two goalies tonight. But my prediction for tonight is that the Rangers win this game 4-2. That's my wager. San Jose playing, second half of a back-to-back. Granted, they didn't have to travel far, but it's still a back-to-back. But like I said, you can't underestimate San Jose though, because they're actually a pretty solid team. I think with last night's win, they're 13-9, something along the lines of that. So, and they like Chris just pointed out, they block passes really well, and they make it hard on you, and they can come at you in waves. So, but the Rangers are a more skilled team for sure. So if the Rangers just play their game and is Shesterkin starting in goal tonight, guys? I haven't seen anything because I think they play tomorrow too. So I'm sure they're going to split it between Georgiev and Igor. So Igor and Shesterkin and Georgiev. If I had to pick, I would probably say they go with Shesterkin tonight. But if you're playing on a back-to-back, I guess it really doesn't matter a whole lot which goalie starts which game. But I mean, why not go with Igor? I mean, I thought he played really well in the game against the Flyers, especially in that sequence on the Flyers power play. We didn't have a stick. I mean, he was your best penalty killer. So just like the Islanders with Sorokin, you ride the hot hand. But I'm just going to go a couple more minutes, guys. So I appreciate you joining me on the my first solo show. I didn't even tell Mark or Philk about it. I just kind of just figured I'd hop on, and I felt like talking some hockey. And I know Marcus said he wanted to see some more out of me because he knows I bring a lot to the table. But figured it was a good opportunity. Okay, thanks, Joey Georgiev. This is a guy that I said on our show a bunch of times. The Rangers really, it was like 2 years ago. The rumors the Maple Leafs were interested in him. That was the time to move him. I mean, his value was probably at the highest it's ever been. So they probably could have got a decent amount for him. But now, not so much. Georgiev, I would say, is I don't want to call him. Well, I guess yes, he's like kind of like a suspect backup goalie. I think the Rangers can eventually do better, but it is what it is. You can't. At the same time, you want your number one to be a horse and ride him, but there's that fine line, and we don't want to burn him out. So, and it's a back-to-back, so I get it playing Georgiev. And what I'm about to say, this goes for really any team. If I had to pick my one concern with the Rangers is that could possibly derail them is if, God forbid, something happened to Igor. If Shesterkin got hurt if it was for a couple games, 2-3 games, maybe not so much. But if he ever went out for an extended period of time, I mean that could be enough to sink the Rangers, because Georgiev is not trustworthy to be a starting goalie. You know, I don't know off the top of my head Georgiev's save percentage, but I mean, you guys correct me, but I believe it's south of 9, correct? So with the way he's played this year, yeah, if Igor went down, I think that would seal the Rangers' fate. But again, you know, that you could say that for a lot of teams, you know, maybe with the exception of Florida, because you know Spencer Knight is also very good. You know, Calgary. I know Dan Vladar. If you look at NHL statistics, he's listed as like number 2 in save percentage, but has only played 4 games. But you know, if Markstrom went down, you know, and he was the starter every night, I don't know. Can't think how how good Calgary would fare if that happened. So again, it's not just the Rangers there, but yeah, if Shesterkin went down, I think the Rangers would be really screwed for sure, because like I said, Georgiev's not carrying the Rangers anywhere. I didn't know that he didn't hug. Yeah, usually, you know, when the end of the game and the team wins, all the players go out there and they hug their goalie, whatnot. Having the backup not hug Shesterkin's a little weird, but I mean, I guess you can't really read too much into that. And thanks, Area 870. Yeah, that's brutal. I mean, I referenced earlier that Varlarmov save percentage is 881. I mean, 870 is pretty bad. There's no two ways around that. I just wanted to go back to this because I missed this from Davey. Small market. I mean, listen, if Connor McDavid played for, like you just referenced, the Rangers or Toronto, specifically the Rangers, let's say, or even Boston, I mean, I think the guy would be even more of a household name. I mean, let's face it, you know, best player in the world, best player in all the 4 major sports. You can make an argument for playing in the biggest city in New York. I mean, that would be tremendous for the game. But fortunately, you can't really control these things, you know, unless like Bettman, when you rig a draft so Crosby ends up in Pittsburgh and saves a franchise. But you know, Crosby in New York would have been outrageous. But yeah, I do think having a superstar player playing in a big market is good for the league, because it would generate you know, more revenue. But at the same time, as you see with Crosby, sometimes, you know, I'm not saying Pittsburgh's a small market, but having a generational player on a smaller market can help bring back that team to the point where they're profitable, and people are excited about hockey in that town. So I kind of see it go both ways there. Now Mike saying that Igor is in that, not Georgiev. So that's interesting. I mean, like I said, when you're playing a back-to-back, I think you got to split and give one game to your backup, because let's face it, like you mentioned, you don't want to burn out your number one. But I will say, you know, for instance, let's say Shesterkin has a, you know, 15 save shutout tonight, and you know he didn't work very much. Then you know I could see a case where you go back to Shesterkin again on a back-to-back. But I mean, the Islanders did it earlier this year with Sorokin. He played a back-to-back, Arizona and Vegas, and on the second half of that back-to-back, he shut out Vegas. So, you know, it's happens before, but I think it's smart to just split it. And yeah, Dryden Hunt, you know, when the Rangers signed him, I kind of was like, you know, he's a tweener, but you know, he's been pretty good for you guys. I mean, and that's the thing you need. If you look at teams that win the Stanley Cup, you have those guys who could play in bottom 6 roles that are integral to your success. I mean, if you look at, you know, the years when Pittsburgh won back-to-back cups, you know, they had guys like Tom Kuhnackel in the lineup that contributed. You know, you need those type of guys in the lineup. One, because they have low cap hits, and then two, they're grinded out type of players that they know their role and they're worker bees and they go out and do what they have to do. So Dryden Hunt, I put in that category. You can't have all stars on all four lines. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap up in a couple of minutes as well. But enjoy the game, and like I said, I think your Rangers are gonna beat San Jose. And 858, yeah, that's like, in my opinion, that's like borderline getting demoted to the AHL and you stay there for a while. But that's bad. That's really bad. I mean, if Ilya Sorokin went down, I mean, the Islanders I think would be screwed. But at least they do have Varlarmov, who I know he's sucking this year, but if you look at his prior history, last 2 years, he's been one of the better goalies in the league. So they would have an easier time. But yeah, Gorgiev, I don't want to think about that for you guys. I mean, I think you guys would be on suicide watch if Igor went down. But let's pray that doesn't happen. Because me personally, even though I'm an Islander fan, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't want to see the Rangers win. But I will say, I really liked Henrik Lundqvist. I don't know why. I guess just because he was a good person and you couldn't deny his talent. But I feel the same way about Shesterkin. I followed him and Sorokin's careers in the KHL pretty closely, and I think it's cool that they're really good friends. And they both play in New York. I think it would be cool for them to, duke it out for winning a Vezina trophy, or maybe not this year, but who's going to be the starter for Russia, because Vasilevsky's going to be around for a lot more years. But I like him. He's really good, and I think he's one of the better goalies in the league, and which is why I don't. Sometimes people ask me, Islander fans and Ranger fans, but they'll be like, oh, who's better, Sorokin and or Shesterkin, and I don't get baited into those, because you see on Twitter, if something's posted about Sorokin, a Ranger fan will comment and write Shesterkin ratio or whatever it is, and they're both really similar. They're both similar talents. They play different styles, but they both dominated the KHL with video game like numbers. Sorokin won a playoff series last year and was phenomenal. This year he's even better. I know Shesterkin, and his save percentage is 5 percentage points higher. But at the same time, Sorokin has 929 save percentage, and he's on a bad team. So you think he's on a better team, his save percentage is better or the same. So I don't, and Sorokin has 3 shutouts, Shesterkin has 1, but Shesterkin could easily have more. They're both phenomenal goalies. I really do hate when I see fans from both sides either say, "Oh, Sorokin's so much better," or Shesterkin's so much better. I think they're both absolutely phenomenal, and both New York teams are lucky to have them. I don't even go as far as saying I think you could make a case where if they swapped teams, if Sorokin was on the Rangers right now and Shesterkin was on the Islanders, I don't think their statistics would be all that much different. I think they're that similar. Yeah, I see this. I see that happening. I can't imagine. For instance, we talked about it on our show. Josh Bailey had to quarantine in Florida for a week and not be with his family because he had COVID, but he couldn't even come home from Florida within the United States. You're telling me that if a player, God forbid, gets COVID when they're in China, you're going to leave it would just be a whole mess. with more players going on COVID protocol. I know Cassidy, the Bruins coach, has went on a couple days ago. More case. I mean, we're into the winter season, just like the flu, so there's going to be rising cases. I can't imagine them still going to the Olympics. And yes, I agree, Chris. Absolutely. We all hope they have really good long careers. But all right, guys, I'll let you go. I know the Ranger game probably started. Yes, it did. Just looked at my phone. So enjoy the game. Hopefully for your sake, the Rangers win. But thanks for watching with me. I should say thanks for watching me and asking some questions. I really enjoyed talking to you guys. I'll confer with Mark and Phil and hopefully do a little bit more of these. And hopefully for my sake and sanity, I don't have to be so just pissed off and dejected about the Islanders. They can turn things around a little bit. So a little more positive things to talk about. But I'm always glad to talk hockey with you. Rangers, Islanders, doesn't matter to me. But enjoy the rest of your night. I'll talk to you guys later, and we'll be back. Well, I think Philip might be going to the game tonight. Maybe I'm making that up, but if that's the case, I can't imagine he's doing his good, bad, and the ugly. So with that said, I guess we'll see you guys next week for our normal show, which might be coming to you on Thursday instead of Wednesday. I think Mark and Phil have some prior engagements. But all right, guys, thanks for joining me, and I'll talk to you guys.